Welcome to our Park City Market Talk webinar for January 2022. My name is Ron Wilstein. I'm a broker at Keller Williams Luxury Properties, and this is our first webinar of the year, which means I'm going to be covering my predictions for the new year 2022. But before we do that, let's jump right into the data, see what's been happening in the Park City real estate market. Over the past 12 months, there's been 2,794 sales. That consists of homes, condominiums, and vacant land. That's all real estate brokerages combined, and that's 92 sales, or a 3% increase over the same time period the year before. This graph here is breaking down the categories of homes, condominiums, and vacant land or lots. The red bars represent the time period of January through December 2021, so all of last year, and the silver bar represents 2020 in a year-by-year comparison. You can see right away that the number of home sales is down 20% from 925 to 739, while the condos are up by 14% from 1,174 to 1,338, and in lots they're also up by 19% to 717 from the previous year's 603 sales. Now let's break this down by each category, starting with home sales. And what I've done here, I've broken it into three geographical areas: the Park City limits, the Snyderville Basin, the county area of Park City in the same school district, and then the Jordanelle Reservoir area. So you can see that the number of transactions are down in every category, not because of a lack of interest, but because of a lack of inventory. There's not enough to sell, otherwise we would be breaking records from the previous record-breaking year. But for homes, they're down by 27%, dropping from 296 sales in 2020 to 215 in 2021. A 15% drop in the Snyderville Basin from 522 sales to 444. And then the Jordanelle area, a drop from 107 to 80 sales, a 25% decrease. Turning to condominiums, we see the opposite's the case. We had condominiums to sell, so we sold them. 19% increase in the city limits, climbing to 511 compared to the previous year of 431. A 4% increase in the Snyderville Basin from 514 to 535, and a 28% increase in the Jordanelle area from 229 to 292. Lot sales, about even or an increase in Jordanelle area. The city limits, of course, has very few lots available to be purchased, so there were 3 fewer, dropped from 43 to 40 this past year. No change of condos, 246 in the Snyderville Basin, and in the Jordanelle area where there was available inventory to be purchased, it was climbing 37% from 314 sales to 431. So let's take a look at prices. Prices, here we see the same 3 categories. Now this graph, a horizontal one, talks about home medium sold prices, and you can see that in the city limits, prices rose year over year by 36% for homes, climbing from a medium sold price of $2,500,000 all the way up to $3,395,000. Nice increase there. Snyderville Basin rose by 21% year over year from $1,572,500 to $1,009,000 for 2020, and then a slight decrease, 5% off in Jordanelle area from $2,470,000 as the median price to last year $2,350,000, and that has more to do with smaller, less expensive properties selling during that last year period. Now let's look at condominiums. Again, another 36% increase in the city limits, climbing from $956,250 to $1,003,000 as a median price. Snyderville Basin rose 21% to $710,000 as a median price from the previous $587,500, and a 19% increase price, just under $800,000 compared to the previous $675,000. Now we're looking at land, and again, increases. Look at these percentages. Prices in the city limits rose by 57%, from $1,002,000 to $1,885,000. Rose by 29% in the Snyderville Basin, from $602,500 all the way up to $775,000, and then a whopping 97% increase in value from median price of $324,500 to $640,000. Again, types of lots varied. It was a better lot in this past year, but seeing the prices basically double is an indicator that that's where the attention was drawn this past year, since you had little choices in Park City and the Snyderville Basin. So when you look at all these combined together, categories up really in every category except for one. So prices rose double digits and as high as 97% over previous year prices. Really quite amazing. We like to look at the average time on the market for 2021, and we're looking in this case back 6 months. So the red bar represents the second half of 2021 and the silver bar represents the first half. Sales are happening quicker. Time on the market, from time on the market to the time that it closed, dropped from 64 days to 41 days. Basically, the fastest you can sell a property on average is 30 to 45 days, and we're at that figure or below. So our market is hot. Sales are happening quickly, and buyers are closing quickly to incentivize sellers to take their deals. Now let's turn to my predictions for Park City real estate in 2022. And once I share that with you, I'm going to ask Jeremy and Dean to come on and to react and give their comments if they agree with my observations, disagree, or anything they want to add to the equation. So let's just get started here and jump right in. We are now into 2022. Let's see what things are on my mind that may impact the market here. Starting with interest rates. We all know that interest rates have been steady for a long time, but they are definitely going to rise. Some have risen already, and we can expect them to increase more. Now that impacts real estate markets globally, certainly across the United States, but let me also mention this, that in Park City, where 50% of all transactions are all cash, it doesn't have as great of an impact that it does in main cities across the country. Other issue that's important to consider is inflation. We are now seeing inflation, which we have not seen for a long time. Prices are going up, the cost of living is going up, and it's definitely going to have an impact on the Park City real estate market. It costs people more to get by. It costs them more to buy anything, and real estate is included in that category. So we can expect that inflation will have an impact on our already rising prices that I've shown you in the statistical portion of this webinar. The other element that's important to consider is supply and demand. Balanced markets, there's an equal number of supply and demand. Typically in real estate, that means that in national markets, 6-month inventory is a good balanced supply and demand. In resort towns, a 9-month inventory is a good supply and demand. Well, we've got demand, but we have very little supply in Park City. So that is, again, going to drive up prices, and as we saw in the stats section, it's going to lower the number of transactions if we don't have properties to sell. That is the Park City market for 2021. That's what we're seeing going into 2022. The other element that we need to consider, of course, is the pandemic. The pandemic is impacting all of our lives. We have seen many, many variants, and we've had 5. And this latest one, the Omicron, it seems to be spreading more and more throughout the United States as well as the planet. And so it's growing in large numbers. And so it will take its toll. On a positive note, it is worth noting that both Pfizer and Merck have worked very hard to come up with antiviral pills. So it's not just vaccination that's in our arsenal in order to combat those who want to get vaccinated. Of course, we know that not everybody does, but soon we're going to have some antiviral pills that will help us fight the virus. But in all of our forecasting of the Park City real estate market, we've got to look at the impact that the pandemic is having upon us. And so I want to turn to the Summit County, Utah website and look at their dashboard. And so what the slides I'm about to show you are from the Summit County Health Department. It's their dashboard, and it's worth seeing the condition of Park City relative to the rest of the state or the country or the globe for that matter, and then factor that into real estate. So again, these slides are all provided on the Summit County Health Department site. But what I want to point out to you here is that people living in Summit County, where Park City is located, who are eligible to receive the vaccine have received at least one dose, and that is 100%, which is terrific. 100% of our residences have received at least one dose, and those who are eligible who have completed their vaccination series, whether that is 2 doses or two doses and a booster, is 85%. So the good news is we are heavily vaccinated, got vaccinated pretty quick relative to Utah and the rest of the country, because we know how important it is for the Park City lifestyle and certainly for the ski season. This graph here is a 7-day case rates of vaccinated and unvaccinated. The blue line are the vaccinated, and you can see that while they had an increase in cases starting in December, which I highlighted in yellow, it's pretty mild relative to the unvaccinated. This graph here is positive weekly cases. Again, the same thing, but the middle of December, right before Christmas, is when guests started rolling into town, and so did the virus. So in an area that is heavily vaccinated, the guests unfortunately brought COVID with them in a big, strong, powerful way. Here's another chart. This graph here goes all the way back to March of 2020. You can see our levels, our daily counts in Summit County. And yes, there was a bump there, but then it leveled out, and look at how it has taken off lately. Significant jump. Omicron, as we know, is highly contagious, and that's what it's looking like here. And that's frankly a tough pill for the locals to swallow, because we want the tourists coming. It's important for our economy, our industry, but sure don't like the COVID coming with them. Finally, let me just show you this. This graph here is a positive cases by 100,000 people, and the main reason I'm showing you this graph here is you can see by the blue graph in the middle of the graph, that was declining increases in COVID cases, and then sure enough, December rolls around and it just takes off. So that is the current condition of COVID in the Summit County, Park City area. We do expect that it will probably stay high throughout the rest of the ski season. By April, it will start to drop off, and that will be a welcomed relief for 2022. And then I need to point out the wealthy in Park City. I believe for better or for worse, you always have the wealthy living and owning real estate in Park City, in Deer Valley, in the surrounding areas. And they will likely continue to buy real estate with all cash. As I mentioned earlier, 50% of our sales for the last decades have been all cash. So people typically have a lot of cash to buy real estate with in the Park City area. They will have the resources to pay more in the marketplace. They will be able to buy what they want, even pay higher than market rates. And as a result, they will acquire properties, and they will beat out their competition for the same properties. I don't see that changing in 2022. The wealth is here, or it's coming here. This also means that property values will likely continue to rise in the future. We always wonder, is there going to be a bubble? Is there going to be adjustment? Well, when you have a limited supply and you have people who have the wherewithal to buy and it's highly competitive, those prices are just going to continue to rise, and that's what we should expect for this new year. So for the wealthy, they will buy, they will continue to grow in their net worth, frankly, with their recent real estate purchases. For those who can buy a piece of Park City real estate in whatever price range they can afford, they will likely add to their net worth if they pull the trigger and do that. And of course, they'll add to their quality of life, because nothing beats living in Park City. So this may or may not be fair to you. I am not reporting on fairness. I'm reporting on what I see happening and what I've seen in 33 years of living in Park City. So this is what I see is going to happen in Park City. Now, what we want to hear from is we want to hear from Jeremy and from Dean and see if they agree.
Thanks, Dad, for that great presentation on your predictions and what we're going to see. You covered interest rates, inflation, supply and demand, that pandemic, and the wealthy. And for those who don't know me, my name is Jeremy Wilstein, and this is Dean DeLeone. We're both.
Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. All right, well, let's, Dean, what did you think about what my old man said? Was he on point? Was he straying from the tangent? Where's he at?
Yes, I think he certainly was on point. As we're entering 2022, supply is certainly down and demand is very high. Everybody's working with buyers and searching very hard to find properties, trying to put together off-market deals, which is frequently happening. However, we're finding that sellers are less likely to be willing to do that because they typically create a little bit more competition if they do take the property to the market. But we still aren't seeing a lot of properties coming on at any of the price points. It's not one specific price point that's lacking. It's across the board right now. So yeah, it's a competitive real estate environment right now.
Yeah, I agree. It's in the past we would have certain segments of our market that had very little supply, or there'd be great action whenever a listing came on the market. We are seeing properties from $200,000 up to $15 million have multiple offers on it, which is just mind-blowing as we see a huge shift. And what Ron was saying and what he covered with the pandemic, he covered numbers from Summit County, this county we're in, and the health department. And we saw this big surge in December, like the rest of the country saw with this new Omicron variant that was highly contagious, but seems to be less severe on people. And, here in Park City, you saw the vaccination numbers were very high vaccination. But we get a lot of people from all over the world come visiting our great spots. So they bring whatever they want to bring. Maybe they've got something with them, maybe a little COVID with them. But we do get people from all over the world coming here, and I expect, my predictions is this peak of Omicron is going to start subsiding here soon, probably by the end of the ski season. But we're all hoping, and I think it's looking very great that we're all going to stay open. We're going to have a successful ski season, and I don't see any risk of shutting down the ski resorts like we did last year.
Yeah, that's very well said. I will, and moving forward, I will mention one thing that I maybe disagreed with Ron on a little bit, and he hit towards the end on the wealthy. Certainly the wealthy have been here and they continue to come to Park City. That being said, with the inflation prices, certainly there's going to be a few outliers that it's going to affect their day-to-day life. But for the most part, I don't really see it affecting a lot of people's day-to-day activities or spending. It's the wealthy, so the inflation doesn't really affect them as much. I heard a stat the other day where with inflation, it's probably going to cost each individual roughly $5,000 more just to live your day-to-day life than it has in previous years. And $5,000, so significant chunk of money, not enough to change a lot of people's lives here in Park City.
Yeah, we're very lucky here, and the people that are moving here are extremely wealthy, because to buy a property here, our median price is quite high, but you get this great lifestyle. Let's talk about interest rates a little bit. Ron touched on these. We do know that interest rates are starting to creep up. However, how low are interest rates still? I mean, they can go up 1%, 2%. We're still so low historically in terms of interest rates. So while interest rates and they creep up a little bit, it does affect affordability. However, when you look back on the history of interest rates, we're at rock bottom. So we got to go up at some point. So I see maybe the interest rates slowing down other markets, but with over 50% of our deals here in Park City, cash buyers, I just don't see the interest rates slowing down the Park City real estate market when we have such low supply, extremely low supply, and still just extreme high pent-up demand. So interest rates, I don't see that affecting the Park City market here.
No, I don't either. I agree with that. And if it does, Greg Cut, a lender that we frequently work with, was at our broker meeting the other day, and he did mention that the Fed plans on starting with the increase on interest rates over conventional loan limits. And those are second home buyers. And in Park City, that's currently at 800, or Summit County, $817,000. So anything over that is going to be affected first, just stimulating and trying to keep them a little bit lower for anybody that is getting a conventional loan.
Yeah, so to put it, so we can wrap up here, my predictions for 2022, just looking back a little bit at the last year and a half or 2 years when COVID struck, in essence, and we shut down for a month or two, and then we had a huge boom in our real estate market, just like everywhere across the country. And I expect that to continue in 2022, really based on the supply and demand. We just have such little inventory because it's all been purchased. It's been purchased by people that moved from the big cities to enjoy this lifestyle and really protect their families during COVID. And I think some of those people will move back, but I think the vast majority have gotten this taste of small town living and the fact that almost overnight our society went to a work at home model, and some companies are going to go back to that, but I think a lot will remain work at home. So I don't see this real estate market slowing. I see prices continuing to appreciate. I see the demand continuing, and I see some more record-breaking prices here in 2022 until we get more inventory, which I don't see much on the horizon. If you can invest in real estate, I don't think there's a better investment right now.
Yeah, and I agree with that, Jeremy. And to that point, we don't have a lot of inventory to look at and really know for sure if this stuff's going to sell. However, I was at a new development that's going in Founders Place earlier this week with a client looking at it. It's going to be in Deer Crest, so behind the gates in Deer Crest, ski in, ski out product. It's a beautiful, luxurious product close to the St. Regis, just down the run. The developers have built others up in Empire Pass, one Empire Argent, which should be closing here soon. But in their first phase, they are releasing roughly 36, I don't remember the exact numbers, but 36 units. They haven't released it for reservation yet. They do currently have serious interest from over 100 buyers waiting in line. So once they do release, they're going to have a priority list. Anybody that's purchased one of the developer's properties in the past is going to be priority number one to make their selection. And then they're going to flip a coin if there's multiple interest in one of the units that's left between those that are trying to reserve one. They're going to give you 14 days to pick the one that you want. And then if there's multiple people, they're flipping a coin to see who gets the property. So that's the kind of demand that we're seeing right now. Those properties start for a 2-bedroom, roughly 1,500 square feet at $2.2 million and go up to $8 million for the penthouse. And they'll be completed in about 24 months.
Wow. Okay. Well, anything else you'd like to say in this prediction and what's going to happen in 2022, and anything else we can disagree with Ron about? I mean, he's my dad, so I always like to, throw a couple of bows,
No, as you know, I don't like to disagree with Ron much, nor do I disagree with Ron much because he's usually spot on. So I think we're set.
Now in business and real estate, I don't disagree with him. As a child growing up, I disagree with him all the time. On that, we'll let you all go. Thank you for watching our presentation. I'm Jeremy Wilstein, and this is Dean DeLeone from the Wilstein team. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Well, there you have it. I want to thank you for taking the time to watch our January 2022 Park City Market Talk webinar with our predictions and reactions to those predictions. Don't forget to bookmark BuyParkCity.com for your real estate news. We always keep it updated. And of course, the team is here to assist you in any way that we can.